Some islands don't want visitors, and they make that pretty clear. Whether it's ultra-venomous creatures, toxic air, or eerie disappearances, these places are the definition of off-limits. Some are so dangerous that governments have banned them, while others hold secrets no one has lived to explain. There's an island where snakes drop from trees like apples, one where the very ground can kill you, and another where entire civilizations vanished without a trace. Some are guarded by lethal wildlife, others by territorial locals who don't take kindly to outsiders, and a few, well, people who arrived were never seen again. If you've ever dreamed of escaping to a remote island, pick carefully, because some of these places aren't just impossible to visit, they refuse to let you leave. Here are 15 islands with secrets so deadly they're best left alone. Number 15, Sable Island. Sable Island, a lonely crescent of sand 300 kilometers off Canada's coast, might seem harmless at first glance. But don't be fooled. This remote island has earned its chilling nickname, the Graveyard of the Atlantic. Over 350 shipwrecks litter its shores, swallowed by shifting sandbanks and brutal storms. Even with modern navigation, the island's unpredictable currents and ever-changing coastline continue to claim ships. But the shipwrecks aren't its only mystery. Hundreds of wild horses roam the island, and their origins are still debated. Some say they're descendants of shipwrecked animals. Others believe they were left behind by settlers. Despite the island's harsh winters and complete lack of freshwater lakes, these horses have survived against all odds. With its inhospitable conditions and relentless isolation, Sable Island sees only a handful of visitors each year, mainly researchers and weather station workers. It's a place where nature decides who stays, and it's never humans. Number 14, Tristan da Cunha. If you think your town is isolated, meet Tristan da Cunha, the most remote inhabited island on Earth. Smack in the middle of the South Atlantic Ocean, the nearest landmass is over 2,400 kilometers away. No airports, no hospitals, just a few hundred people living in one of the most cut-off places imaginable. Life here? Brutal. Supplies come by one boat per year, and if something goes wrong, injuries, illness, emergencies, help is weeks away. The island itself isn't exactly welcoming either. Its towering cliffs, rocky terrain, and unpredictable weather make travel dangerous. And in 1961, the island's volcano erupted, forcing the entire population to evacuate. Though the islanders later returned, the risk of another disaster is always looming. Unlike other islands on this list, Tristan da Cunha isn't off limits. But once you're there, you might wish it was. Number 13, Bouvet Island. If hell froze over, it would look like Bouvet Island. Sitting in the South Atlantic, halfway between Antarctica and Africa, this desolate, ice-covered rock is the most remote island on the planet. There's no permanent population, no wildlife, just glaciers, brutal winds, and sheer cliffs. But here's where it gets weird. In 1964, an abandoned lifeboat mysteriously appeared on Bouvet's shores. No crew, no wreckage, no explanation. The nearest land was thousands of kilometers away, and no ships had reported a missing boat. To this day, no one knows where it came from. Even in 2025, Bouvet remains largely unexplored. The weather is so extreme that only a handful of scientists and adventurers have ever set foot here. If you crash-landed on Bouvet, survival wouldn't even be a question. You'd be dead before rescue was even an option. Number 12, Clipperton Island. Clipperton Island should have been a tropical paradise. Instead, it became a real-life horror story. In the early 1900s, Mexico set up a small colony on this isolated coral atoll in the Pacific. At first, life seemed promising, but when supply ships stopped arriving, things spiraled into pure chaos. With no way to leave, the island's leader became a ruthless dictator, controlling the last remaining food and water. He abused, starved, and murdered his own people until only a handful of women and children remained. Eventually, the women fought back, killing their tyrant before being rescued by an American ship. Today, Clipperton is a wasteland of shipwrecks, rusting debris, and an eerie sense of abandonment. The Mexican government has no interest in reclaiming it, and for good reason. Some places are better left forgotten. Now, let's talk about Number 11. Hashima Island. Once, Hashima Island was one of the most densely populated places on Earth. Today, it's a ghost town floating off Japan's coast like a haunted battleship. In the early 20th century, Hashima was a coal mining powerhouse. Thousands of workers lived in high-rise apartments, surrounded by nothing but concrete and sea. But when the coal ran out in 1974, the entire population vanished overnight, leaving behind decaying buildings, rusting staircases, and collapsing rooftops. And that's not the island's only dark history. During World War II, forced laborers from Korea and China were brought here under brutal conditions. Many never left. Survivors described hellish tunnels, constant cave-ins, and the looming threat of starvation. Now, nature is taking back the island. The sea is slowly eroding its ruins, and its crumbling structures are too dangerous to enter. Hashima isn't just abandoned. It's a relic of suffering that refuses to be forgotten. Number 10. Gruinard Island. Gruinard Island looks like an ordinary piece of Scottish coastline, but for decades it was one of the most dangerous places on Earth. During World War II, British scientists used it to test anthrax as a biological weapon, and let's just say it worked way too well. Anthrax spores were released on the island, infecting local sheep. Within days, every single one was dead. The contamination was so severe that even stepping on the island meant almost certain death. For decades, it was known as Anthrax Island, with warning signs posted to keep people away. It wasn't until 1990 that scientists attempted to decontaminate it by dousing the land with 280 tons of formaldehyde. The UK government now claims it's safe, but let's be real, who wants to take that risk? Even today, most people refuse to go near it, just in case something deadly still lingers beneath the soil. Number 9. North Sentinel Island. Some islands don't need haunted forests or deadly creatures to be dangerous. Sometimes the locals are enough. Welcome to North Sentinel Island, home to the Sentinelese, one of the last uncontacted tribes on Earth. And when I say uncontacted, I mean they make sure you never leave. The Sentinelese have spent centuries violently rejecting outsiders, and they're shockingly good at it. In 2006, 2 fishermen drifted too close and were speared to death on sight. When authorities tried to retrieve the bodies, the tribe fired arrows at their helicopter. In 2018, an American missionary attempted to approach them. He didn't make it off the beach. The Indian government has banned all access to the island, not just to protect visitors, but to keep the Sentinelese safe from modern diseases that could wipe them out. The message is clear. Stay far, far away. Because if the ocean doesn't stop you, the Sentinelese will. Number 8. Bear Island. If you ever find yourself shipwrecked in the Arctic, pray it's not on Bear Island, because there's no way out. This desolate rock in the Barents Sea is one of the most isolated places on Earth, and survival here? Next to impossible. Historically, anyone unlucky enough to land here didn't last long. No fresh water, no food sources, and no hope of rescue. Just endless ice, howling winds, and deathly silence. Even the name is misleading. There are no bears, just ghosts of past tragedies. And in 2009, things got even creepier. A Russian research team reported strange lights and eerie activity near the island. Shortly after, they vanished. No wreckage, no distress signals, just gone. Today, the only sign of life on Bear Island is a lone meteorological station and the wreckage of those who came before. If you ever crash here, you won't be making it back. Number 7. Socotra Island. If Dr. Seuss designed an island, it would be Socotra. Floating in the Indian Ocean off Yemen's coast, 1/3 of its plant species exist nowhere else on Earth. Dragon's blood trees with red sap, bizarre bottle-shaped plants, and alien landscapes make it look more extraterrestrial than earthly. For centuries, Socotra has been cut off from the modern world, home to small communities that have thrived in complete isolation. But remoteness has a dark side. The island is notoriously hard to reach, and when cyclones strike, there's nowhere to run. Shipwrecks litter its coastline, and local legends speak of sailors who went mad trying to escape. Even today, in 2025, large parts of the island remain completely unexplored. Which begs the question, what else is hiding in Socotra's alien landscape? Number 6. Isla Bermeja. Isla Bermeja is the island that vanished without a trace. For centuries, sailors mapped and documented this small landmass off the coast of Mexico. It was a key landmark in the Gulf of Mexico, appearing on navigation charts for hundreds of years. And then, it disappeared. By the 20th century, Isla Bermeja was nowhere to be found. Satellite scans, sonar sweeps, nothing. Was it swallowed by the sea, erased by an earthquake, a government cover-up? Some believe it was intentionally destroyed to hide valuable oil reserves beneath its waters. Others think it was never real. To begin with, a cartographic mistake that lasted for centuries. Even today, 2025, Isla Bermeja remains a mystery. Despite all our technology, no one can find it. The question remains, was it lost to nature or erased by design? Well, let us know your theory in the comment section below. Number 5. Ramree Island. If you thought Jaws was terrifying, wait until you hear what happened on Ramree Island. This island off the coast of Myanmar was the site of one of the deadliest animal attacks in history, all thanks to hundreds of hungry saltwater crocodiles. In 1945, during World War II, Japanese soldiers were retreating through Ramree's mangrove swamps, trying to escape British forces. But instead of freedom, they walked straight into a nightmare. Waters packed with the world's largest reptiles. What happened next? Soldiers were dragged into the water, one by one, their screams echoing through the jungle. Survivors later described hundreds of men being eaten alive, making this one of the largest crocodile attacks ever recorded. Even today, Ramree's mangroves are crawling with giant crocs, and few dare to enter. Whether or not the body count was exaggerated, one thing is certain. Those waters are not where you want to be. Number 4. Navassa Island. Navassa Island sits between Haiti and Jamaica, but no one really wants to claim it. It's uninhabited, surrounded by treacherous cliffs, and drenched in a dark past. In the 1800s, Navassa became home to brutal forced labor camps, where workers were enslaved to mine guano, yes, bird poop, under unbearable conditions. Many died from exhaustion, abuse, and heat, and their suffering is said to haunt the island to this day. But that's not all. During the Cold War, Navassa was allegedly used as a chemical weapons testing site, meaning the land itself could still be toxic. Though the island is claimed by both Haiti and the US, neither country has done anything with it. Too haunted? Too contaminated? Maybe both. Today, Navassa remains abandoned, left to the winds, the sea, and whatever lingers in its shadows. And while you technically could visit, the real question is, why would you want to? Well, everyone has their own choice. Number 3. Okunoshima. At first glance, Okunoshima looks adorable. This small island off Japan's coast is overrun with friendly rabbits hopping up to tourists for food. But beneath the cuteness, a dark secret lurks. During World War II, Okunoshima was erased from maps because it wasn't supposed to exist. It was home to a top-secret chemical weapons facility, producing thousands of tons of poison gas for the Japanese military. When the war ended, the plant was abandoned, and the horrific past was quietly buried. But what about the rabbits? Some say they were test subjects for chemical experiments, released when the facility shut down. Others believe they were brought later to soften the island's sinister reputation. Whatever the truth, traces of poison still linger in the soil, and some buildings remain too toxic to enter. Cute? Well, of course, yes. Safe? Not so much. Number 2. Ilha da Queimada Grande. If you're terrified of snakes, this is your worst nightmare come to life. Ilha da Queimada Grande, better known as Snake Island, is so lethal that the Brazilian government has banned civilians from setting foot on it. The reason? It's absolutely crawling with venomous snakes. And not just any snakes, golden lancehead vipers, one of the deadliest vipers in the world. Their venom is so powerful it can melt flesh and cause fatal organ failure within hours. With an estimated 1 snake per square meter, there's nowhere safe to step. Legend has it that the island's last human inhabitants, a lighthouse keeper and his family, were attacked by snakes in the night. By morning, they were gone. Today, only select researchers are allowed on the island, always accompanied by armed medical teams. If you ever get invited, well, just politely decline. Number 1. Poveglia Island. There are abandoned places, and then there's Poveglia Island, a place so cursed that even ghost hunters avoid it. Located in the Venetian lagoon, this island has been called one of the most haunted places on Earth, and for good reason. During the Black Plague, tens of thousands of victims were quarantined and left to die there. Their bodies were either dumped into mass graves or burned to ash. Some reports claim that over 50% of the island's soil is human remains. As if that wasn't enough, in the 1920s, a mental asylum was built here. Rumors spread about a sadistic doctor who performed gruesome experiments on patients. He eventually threw himself from the bell tower, claiming he was being tormented by spirits. Today, Poveglia is completely off limits, and even the bravest locals refuse to go near it. Fishermen say they hear whispers and screams near the ruins, and multiple buyers have backed out of purchasing the island. Because let's face it, some places should just be left alone. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you soon in the next one.